I got you. Three, two, one. Let's do this.
Welcome to this special making of panel from Prime Video's record-breaking competition series Beast Games. With me are host, creator, and executive producer Jimmy MrBeast Donaldson, creator and editor Mack Hopkins, production designer Stephen Leonhardt, casting director Katy Wallin, and the creator and executive producer Sean Klitzner. Listen, unbelievable undertaking this series. Jimmy, can you briefly first describe just a brief premise of the show and how you went from being this wildly successful content creator to producing the biggest reality competition we've seen?
We basically went, what if we have the most contestants of any competition show in history, gave the largest cash prize in history, had some of the craziest, most unique games in history, mixed with the largest sets in history, put all that into like a pot, stirred it together, and created a competition show. That's kind of at a high level what we did.
I mean, I think everyone was asking as well. You're handing money out left and right. I mean, it's like a million here, a half million there, and then ultimately this $10 million grand prize. Where did the money come from? Because most competition shows, $1 million is the big grand prize at the end.
That's a good question because yeah, I always wondered why that kind of was the artificial ceiling was $1 million because obviously shows get paid a lot more than that. But we did lose money producing it. I mean, my goal with season one wasn't to make money; it was just to honestly just make the greatest competition show, greatest season of competition show possible. And so, we went a little overkill. We built like a massive city for the contestants to stay in between the games they were playing, and the sets on the games were just, they're pretty ginormous. And I'll admit, I've never built a city before until Beast Games. And so a lot of these things were a little bit more expensive than I thought they would be. But, people ended up enjoying the final product. So I'm just happy that, people like the show.
And Sean, can you describe your working relationship with Jimmy and, what was the most difficult challenge for you in just getting this show produced?
Yeah, well, Jimmy and I, we've worked together now for 3 years within the MrBeast YouTube section of our company. So prior to transitioning over to television, it's really learning and understanding what Jimmy has spent tens of thousands of hours studying, which is it's the psychological connection that an audience member will have with a piece of content. And that takes just reps and years to kind of understand that. So once you kind of get in that realm, you're able to now look and go, hey, how do we transition your style and your vision of how we create content and bring it at home on television in a traditional fashion? So I would say probably the biggest challenge that we were faced with was being a company that kind of figures out how to do things in a logical fashion and then transition that over to a world that is so used to the same kind of process in doing things, and finding where that like middle ground is to create something that not only fit our retention model and what makes great content, but also fits what people at home kind of learn to expect, but then elevating that as well.
And Katy, the casting, I mean, this show has 1,000 contestants. That's a Guinness World Record, one of many set by this show. How do you,
Yeah, conveniently behind me. Anyways, keep going.
I mean, how do you even like start that process?
I live by the four P's, and I feel like when I was asked to do this show, the four P's are being positive, perseverant, proactive, and passionate. And I feel like Jimmy embodies, everybody on this panel embodies those. And we put a powerful, I love the letter P, plan together and just went for it. As an absolute goal getter, we put and structured a really strategic plan to go out and find 1,000 amazing people, diverse, all ages, all types. And it was, I would say, out of my 3 decades of casting, I remember getting a call from Haim Saban to do the Power Rangers 3 decades ago. And when I got a call to do this show, knowing Jimmy was behind it, I had the same feeling, utter excitement. And honestly, it was one of the best experiences of my career because it was so challenging in the most positive way.
And what makes a great Beast Games contestant? What are you looking for?
Ooh.
It's a great question. I would say people that are unforgettable, people that are passionate, people that are interesting. This is not a scripted show, so we're not releasing a breakdown and putting actors in roles. These are real people competing in a contest. And on the biggest show in the history of television, and they have to have a really good why. Like if we use Jeff as an example, who won the show, he had just a heart and such a positivity about him, but it wasn't really about the $5 million. It was bigger than that. It was about changing the course of his son's life by finding a cure for something. So when you meet people like that, that are real people, that have real jobs, and they have a real opportunity to be a part of something like this, we look for those layered people that are unfiltered and really open to sharing their experiences of their life that will transcend on a show like this.
And a big part of what she said is definitely unfiltered because obviously, since it's not scripted, we don't know who will win, right? So we had the 1,000 people there, and any one of those 1,000 people could be the one that the entire franchise is basically being bet on because the last episode, whoever wins is a huge part of that, and them talking and things like that. So unfiltered is key because there are some people who, when put in situations, they get trapped in their mind and they don't really say anything, and we can't do anything about that because it's not like I can put words in their mouth. The best kind of contestants are just people who just say what they're thinking. That's it. And we had to constantly remind certain contestants because they try to play a certain character or whatever, and we're like, we don't need you to be anything besides yourself. Just like whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, just like literally express it through your mouth, and that's it. Like, and if you do that, you are the perfect contestant in the entire world. I couldn't be happier.
And Tawana would have been such a great winner as well. I mean, she was second place. Everyone was rooting for her. So, I mean, you couldn't go wrong in the end.
Yep.
Steven, can you describe how you created this city for the top 500 contestants? Because I've never seen anything like it. I'm sure you've never done anything like that. Describe that process for us.
Nobody's done anything like it, and that's what was both so exciting about it, and honestly, during a lot of the process, very terrifying about it. We had basically the amount of time you have to put together a regular set for a regular large size television show, except instead of trying to set up an existing house for a reality cast of 30, we have 500. 500 is not 10 times 30. It's not close to it. It's 100 times as complex. Just the logistics of it. How are we going to deal with people going to the bathroom? How are we going to deal with them getting fed? We're overwhelming and only comparable to like super large events. It was a mix of a set and a full Coachella festival. And all of that was really incredible, but and really difficult. But last year when they called, everybody in our industry has been shrinking. Every call you get is about doing the same show for less than you did it before. And suddenly we have these guys who just want to swing for the fences. And how can you not get excited about being a part of that? From day one, they said, we're going to have the highest budget sets in the history of television. And at first you wonder if you're, being taken for a ride. But when we realized they were serious, I mean, thrilling.
And if you want to go more in depth on that, so how many? I remember one time I walked on set and I asked Klitzner, it's like because I saw so many people. It's like how many people are working right now? And he told me, and not including the contestants, that we had over 1,000 people between building the city and building the sets and the other hangars and the camera crew and everything. I mean, you want to tell more about that?
For approximately 20 straight days, we had a roll call of over 1,000. There were, during the highest period, we were frantically behind building episode 1, the trapdoors, with about 250 people there. There were 500 people working on the city, plus we were building the cubes at the same time, plus we were building 3 other sets in process. And then it grows on itself exponentially. We had a shipping and receiving department that probably had at least 30 people working in it at that point. We had 3 separate scenic mills building, plus we had at least a dozen subcontracting set building companies working throughout Toronto. We were also contracting out of Atlanta, out of New York, out of Los Angeles. It is not maybe the biggest sets that were ever made, but it is definitely the biggest sets that were ever made in that time frame. And we were stretching the resources of the entire entertainment industry on the North American continent without exaggerating at all.
Yeah,
and that
like
goes
scaffolding.
Art, that's camera, that's audio, that's monitors, it's everything. We were taking it all
And then,
Yeah.
Denton, like in a cartoon, when something like really challenging happens and the character goes, well, at least it's not raining. We had this massive thunderstorm as we're trying to build these gigantic metal towers that was coming in that completely derails all of this hard work. And we were like coming up with a contingency plan of what happens if it overrains and muds, and we're shooting in 72 hours and we're not complete yet,
During that storm, all of the paint basically sheafed off of the entirety of the tower. And the tower was 114 feet tall, 144 feet long, 70 feet deep. It and it's almost impossible to reach. We painted it all on the ground and we had to repaint it all in 3 days up in the air. It was bananas.
Who thought of the games? Like, who created the games, and like who was the brain power behind all? Because there's so many and they're so entertaining.
So that would be Tyler. He's not on this call right here, but phenomenal game creator. One of the smartest people I've ever met. I've worked very closely with him on our YouTube videos for over 6 years now, and this was like a lot of his brainchild. So I was obviously involved, and Klitzner helped write a lot of them too. But I would say like he is definitely the mastermind behind a lot of them, and it's so funny to like walk in a room as we're like writing it, and he's like just thinking of literal games out of thin air, like some of the stuff we did, like the one where you pull out the numbers on the island and you take that many steps. Like, I'm not aware of any other show or that has done that game before, and so it's so funny because he's essentially him and some other people will just lock themselves in a room, or I think they were just in a cabin because they're ready for season 2, and they're just like literally trying to create new games out of thin air, and they love it. So it's really cool to watch.
And Mac, obviously editing plays such a crucial role in a show like this. Can you talk about the process of how you were able to keep up the fast pace? Because it's tense, but we also
Yeah.
like get pulled into the stories of these people and feel something for them.
Yeah, so this was by technicality the most advanced edit that mankind has ever attempted. There's never been this many cameras running simultaneously before. Like new systems had to be created left and right to like make this thing function. Kind of felt like we were NASA watching a rocket ship launch when we were in this editing room. Like that, like there's 1,000 people in this room, and we would stumble upon lines that happen to correlate with what our story plans were on the wall for characters who made it far in the show, and we would all jump and cheer when we found like these like really great lines we'd stumble upon. And it was just it was just massive. And to be honest, when you have a show that big and you have that many cameras, it is not really possible to actually watch every second of every piece of footage because it would take, more years than I've been alive to do that, right?
Like for a little context, we had over 1,100 cameras recording on episode 1 while they're on the towers. So
Yes.
it's 1,100 cameras recording for multiple hours a day across 3 days. I mean, that probably alone produced like how many hours would you say episode 1 produced of footage?
I mean, just tens of thousands of hours.
Yeah,
It
the
was,
dirty
it was
math is like something like, I mean, off the top of my head, like 30, 40,000 hours. And
yeah.
that's just the first episode. Yeah, keep going.
And it was like the fact this is a spoiler for the show. So close your ears if you haven't seen that final episode. But the people who get first and second in this show happen to, by actual miracle, be standing next to each other in this sandbox of an event in episode 1. They happen to be next to each other. And we were given, but possibly by the grace of God, dialogue exchanges between first and second place in episode 1. And as a person who's trying to tell a story through this whole madness, it was unbelievable, and I could not believe that happened. One thing that was really important to me, especially on that first episode, is when you have 1,000 people in a room, that feeling when you're on the set of Beast Games, the feeling that you experience seeing 1,000 people simultaneously competing is unlike anything I personally have ever experienced in my life. And I've done some crazy stuff, especially with Jimmy. And the whole goal with the edit was to try to basically bring that feeling that all of us had on set into the show itself. For example, you'd think that 1,000 people would be super chaotic, but during that in episode 1, when they're building blocks, that room of 1,000 people all competing it with each other for $5 million, later it's 10, was completely silent. And I took a lot of inspiration. I take a lot of inspiration from, some of my favorite films by directors like Christopher Nolan. And the whole goal here was to basically marry this bread and butter that we know of YouTube retention and a deep understanding of audiences, and marry that in with some of the more traditional stylistic things that I know everyone on this call is super inspired by. And that was the challenge. And you take the world's hardest edit up with the deadlines and you try to make it happen. And I think I'm really proud of everything that we've all made. So
Can I piggyback off one thing with Matt? Because one of the geniuses behind how Matt goes about things, it's like that episode 9 to 10, how they went from the coin flip cliffhanger to how we deliver on it. But we also know from a structure standpoint from television that you want to do a recap of what happened in the season. And Matt didn't just go, okay, well, we're just going to recap it with them sitting around going, hey guys, can you believe how far we went? Instead, he takes this moment and he uses the moment to create what I felt was like an end game Marvel inspired superhero. And I remember when Mac first started pitching all of us, he had, I think, 30 seconds of a voiceover and a coin, and he was like mapping out what we're doing. And even then we're like, dude, we see it. Go. And you see that moment come to fruition. And it's just, I think that's one of the keys that separates us is this third part of what we do in storytelling, where Mac takes what we did and then adds some sort of cinematic like montage that isn't representative of what you normally would find in a traditional competition show, but instead is like this moment where I watch it, I get chill, I tear up when I watch some of this stuff. So I got to give him a shout out because I don't know if he's gonna pat himself like that, but I think that's what makes him who he is.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Were you surprised by the community that was formed and the emotional connections? These people just met and they're risking literally millions of dollars for each other, saving people that want their money. They're saving people that are out against them. It was fascinating to watch just the dynamic. What surprised you the most about that?
Yeah, I'll take this one. I mean, I was flabbergasted at the amount of times that someone would put someone else above them while competing for the largest cash prize ever. And at the end of episode 2, when we had 4 people with buttons in front of them, and they could press the button and win $1 million, but they have to eliminate 64 people that they said they wouldn't eliminate. And the fact that all 4 of them rejected $1 million, like there was no doubt in my mind that someone was going to take money, and I couldn't believe that happened. I still to this day can't believe that no one took that money, because there's 250 people left. So not only do you get $1 million, but you also eliminate a quarter of the remaining contestants, and so you give yourself a 25% higher chance of winning $5 million. And but yeah, they were, human spirit shines through human nature, and they were yeah, there were a lot of times where honestly people were a lot nicer, a lot kinder, a lot less ruthless than I thought they were going to be. And personally, it was very inspiring to see, and it made me very happy to see how I don't I want to take it too far. There were also people who when given the opportunity, instantly would backstab their best friend and eliminate them for better shot at winning money. But for the most part, people were just way kinder than I thought they would be.
I also loved everything that happened on the private island, from hide and seek to the 1.8 million gifted to the winner. That was maybe one of the most joyful moments, is seeing player 952. And what was it like to be there in that moment? Because it looked incredible and she was just so grateful.
Yeah, I mean, when she started telling her story before she opened that I don't even know if those were briefcases. I think it was just like, I guess, wooden briefcase. Even I started crying on set because I didn't know that she used to be homeless, and that she had mentioned that she was trapped in a country in Africa for like a year, and she was telling a lot of she really opened up, and I was like, whoa, this is I was like, man, I can't be biased, but I really want her to win this 1v1 because my gosh. And so I had to take like a 2-second break because my eyes were red and like wipe some tears off. Like even thinking about it, it's making me borderline cry a little bit. So it was very emotional, but very like I said before, they even her and the other contestants, they were also friendly towards each other, and they developed such a bond because we didn't shoot that all in one day. So they were spending the night on the island in between, each day with the games. And even at night. Like they would hang out and they would talk to each other and they would, eat dinner together and make jokes and stuff. And so it was really cool to see that. And I was just very happy that they weren't just being mean to each other, that they all became friends.
I would love to piggyback on that, Denton. I love that you're saying that the positivity of the process to put these people on, like Dino, number 380, he was a retired fire captain of 30 years, saved so many people's lives, and this was his second chapter. And he and you talk about Mia, number 952, and during the process of getting to know them prior to being selected to be a contestant on this show, the amount of joy to be able to not only hear these stories, but see that they have an opportunity like this is life changing. And you talk about the casting. We spoke to 100,000 people in a 12-week period, and it was an unbelievable amount of people that my team spoke to at Mystic Art for 12 weeks, which is really not a lot of time. And Denton, I know you love reality television, fun
I
stuff.
do. Guilty.
And I know you're a predictor of awards season, so we can't wait to hear what you think about Beast Games.
It's definitely in the conversation. I was going to actually ask, maybe Jimmy, in the spirit of Beast Games, who, now that we've heard from this great group, who would you eliminate in exchange for an Emmy?
Oh, like on my own team, who would I sacrifice for an Emmy? Well, I mean, first off, one of you has to go, and I hope you understand, it's an Emmy. I
Sacrifice.
okay. Well, that makes it easier. Okay, Klitzner.
That was one of the most fascinating things to me is the sacrifice people made in the game, and also like the microcosm of culture, like religion, like religious leaders started popping up, and animosity towards those religious leaders. What's like shocked you the most when you were watching all these things happen?
Yeah, I mean, my reactions on the show were real. So I mean, you can kind of see it throughout it that I obviously never in a million years would have guessed that Jeremy would have almost formed as like you said, like a religious leader. We were out there for a long time. It might not feel like it, but we were filming for 30 days, and so there were down days while we'd set up these big sets and stuff where they'd hang out in the city. And on Sunday, they would all pray together. And there are actually a lot of Christians who were contestants in the show, and they would read the Bible and pray and things like that. I mean, honestly, the thing is because it's unscripted and we just kind of let them do what they want to do, and we just kind of show what happened. It's like, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things that I was like a little I wouldn't have expected, but that's like I think that's what's cool about us having all these cameras and setting up all this infrastructure where we can actually be recording 24/7 on more cameras than people have ever used in the history of production, because then you can actually get these moments because we're not like going, hey, we're gonna film this like 1 hour window today, get all your lines in, and then we'll see you guys in 23 hours. We're like, no, we had camera people out there all the time. We had dedicated cameras they could talk to and wide shots and things like that. So we could capture it all and like include all this stuff in there. And so I think like all these unexpected things that you never would have been able to predict. I think that's the beauty of Beast Games is like we were actually able to capture it because we spent all the time putting together the infrastructure to actually be recording 24/7 on all these angles in a massive city.
And I just wanted to spotlight just quickly because I found it so fascinating, episode 9, which was the lead up to the final 6. And I would love like the perspective of each of you from like their parts of the tower and the phones and also the editing, because it just got more and more tense, and the fast pace and the phone calls. Can each of you give your perspective of that episode?
I want to hear Mack's perspective. Tell us about the edit on that. I thought you did a good job.
So I know that when you have this final episode, you have the people at the most developed stage that they've been the entire show. And whoever moves on from here they're gonna go into the final 6, and they're gonna be participating in the final episode. And I think the most important part from a storytelling aspect is these people are talking, for lots of time on these phones, and they're saying everything they can to kind of showcase their character. And it's like, I think that one of the most important things is to have a mixed bag of the audience feeling, like some satisfaction from some of the characters who got out. There was, of course, the guy that stole all the money in the previous episode. Who I've heard from a lot of people that I run into in public who are like, "I'm so glad that guy got out," but have a kind of a mixed bag because there are also some people that leave in that episode that the audience is attached to. Sort of in the same vein how in episode 10, the audience, I've been telling the editing team the whole time, but the real protagonist is up until episode 10 is we want Tawana to be the focus. And then it can kind of shift a little bit at the last second, which will be a little bit surprising. Same thing goes for 9. There are people that we're pulling for in 9 that don't get to see 10. And that kind of mixed bag of satisfaction and tragedy is, I think, what gives it a lot of depth. And the stakes are just so high. To be honest, it's almost a little bit hard to mess up because people are so invested in these characters and they just were saying the craziest stuff. I was super, I don't know. It was amazing to see what they were saying to each other. It felt like a movie or something because this environment, they've been in this simulation for so long and they were saying all these really heartfelt, real things to each other. And, again, it was just sort of capturing the same feeling on set. 'Cause, I mean, we were listening to their conversations on set and the way that they all felt. Harnessing that emotion and making that come through in the final product was the goal.
I think also the city itself had a kind of a really interesting character arc, which wasn't totally unintentional. It was talked about to some degree, but in the beginning, when we moved 500 people in there, the city's sort of a utopia. It looks perfect and it has that feeling in episode 2. Everybody's so excited to be there. It's bright, it's sunny, the colors are working like that. But as you get down to 12 people, 10 people in this city that was built for 500, it just naturally sort of turns into a horror set, right? It's very creepy. And that actually played quite well with the story of the game itself as it got down. So I thought 9 looked really great in the sense that, you got everybody siloed into those 10 rooms in the tower and the rooms are all too big for them and they're alone in them. And you just feel the isolation that each person has, one floor to themselves, alone with this phone. I thought that worked really well.
Who here thinks they would last the longest in Beast Games?
I without a doubt would have lasted longer than Jimmy and Beast Games.
I knew you. I literally was
That's
about
cool.
to say Mac is going to say him.
Oh.
I knew that was coming.
Is that because you're a better competitor or more trustworthy?
I just think I could outsmart Jimmy in a game.
What he's trying to do is get me riled up, so I lash out on him. But I'm not going to take the bait. You know what, Mac? Yes, you would outlast me.
These two guys.
Hey, that's from the man himself. That's proof right there. The conversation's over, right? Klitzner, you think you'd last longer than me?
These guys are going to take each other out. I'm going all the way. It's easy.
And I'm going to outlast all of them. I'm the secret weapon.
Truthfully, she seems the most bubbly, and that getting along well with everyone was like a big advantage. So she probably would, because me and Mac and Klitzner are all very competitive. And I mean, you might be competitive too, but you don't give off those vibes, so people would be more trusting of you.
I'm telling you, I would have won the show.
I mean, not if you were going against me. There'd be no chance. I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, before it gets too fun here, I do want to say one thing, Denton, about the episode 9, which is really a testament to the entire show and how we really went about every part of it, from set design to casting. The creative is what leads everything that we do, and we test everything. We get everything up to the line and say, why can't we go here? And when the answer is, well, nobody said you can't, it's like, well, let's do that. That's interesting and unique. If you really break down episode 9, it is historical that every traditional competition show, you're not allowed to make deals behind closed doors. You're not allowed to split the grand prize. That is against the rules. And by the way, it's against our rules as well. However, when we work with compliance, we say, how can we create a game around that? They go, just be open about it. And we've never seen anything really like that, where, by the way, what you don't know about episode 9 is that the actual rules that we wrote in the book was anything you make up until that point is counted on something you can bribe. Meaning if Nia had made it to that point, she could have bribed people with an island. if Akira had made it, he could have bribed people with a Lambo, or if he had gotten Tesla with 100K, that's all inclusive in what this episode was. And it's the nature of what we do, which is we create this sandbox that we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't have this like overly produced idea. There's, by the way, think about when the four of them are up and pass up on $1 million. If one of them hits it, you eliminate 68 people, but we didn't and have to go to another episode. So in real time, we have all these contingency plans to say, this is the world of Beast Games we've created. And that really is where I feel like every aspect of this show, we try to set ourselves apart by going, we just genuinely are constantly creating while this show is going on.
I mean, I respect the kindness of people, but if I was a loved one of someone and I watched that $1 million giveaway and no one took it, I would get flames coming out of my ears. And I'm not mad at JC either. I mean, take the $650,000.
JC is going to be known as one of the greater strategists of this game moving forward. It was very much a lot of kumbaya moments. But if you look back at history of every first season of a show, season 2 is really the franchise season. You're going to get a lot more people who have that opinion and then come on to our show. And so, we don't take that lightly. We're now thinking through that as we think through, future seasons.
That shot at him sitting on the money pile is the most insane
yeah.
shot.
I love that shot.
So crazy.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's just, I there's a few nuggets in the show like that are just like not normal reality TV or competition show. Like the one that Sean was talking about earlier, the intro to episode 10 with that crazy 3D coin flip, and we did 1,000 people with mocap data, like 1,000 contestants running on the coin through a sandstorm. You see that shot of JC again, but this time it's like kind of like a fire escape with the metaphor for what he did. It's just that I don't know, that there's stuff like that is what really I think creatively fulfills all of us, and super exciting that we get to do that on a medium that doesn't normally have that kind of stuff.
So many of you have backgrounds in content creation, YouTube. Do you feel like there needs to be more intersection of, content creators in Hollywood? And I mean, it seems like they have the ideas. Is it happening more that we're not seeing, or could it happen more? What are your thoughts about that?
Yes, 100%. And that's one of the reasons why I felt a lot of pressure in making this, because I mean, everyone has heard of the horror stories of like an influencer trying to do something in Hollywood and it not working out or it flops. And so obviously we're the most subscribed to YouTube channel in the world. And I was really worried that if Beast Games didn't perform well, then everyone's going to look at that at the North Star and be like, well, if they can't succeed, then why would this other influencer? And it's either Beast Games succeeds and other influencers get bigger deals, or Beast Games flops and other influencers gets worse deals, and I care a lot about the YouTube community. And so I'm very grateful that to see the success of it. I think last I saw, Klitzner, you might have more updated numbers, that it has over 80 million unique viewers. It's been performing really well. It's their most viewed unscripted show ever. And I couldn't be happier. It's performing better than I thought it would. And so that makes me very happy. And I've already seen the effects. I don't want to reveal my friends' shows before they reveal them on their own socials, but I know of a couple people, even in I think like the last month or two, a couple other of my friends that make content that have signed pretty big deals to do stuff with streaming platforms. And they're all just like, yeah, it's because these guys saw the success of Beast Games. And now I've been talking to X platform for 3 years, but now they saw how well Beast Games did. All of a sudden now they're returning the calls and want to do something. So I do think, because, Beast Games, it's not like we're a cooking channel that then did this giant competition show. Beast Games is what we already do on YouTube, but way bigger. And instead of being condensed down to a 40-minute video, it's 10 episodes. And so it's like just taking what we do and pouring gas on the fire, and which is why the formula really worked. And so I think as long as it's like staying true to what the influencer or creator is that they're porting over to Hollywood, and they're not trying to be someone they're not. They're leaning into what they're good at and what their audience likes and just doing a better version of it. I think that is a recipe for success, and I think a lot more creators are going to be doing it in the next year.
And Jeff Allen, who we mentioned earlier, who obviously won, had such an incredible story, and he's like this hero now at the end of the TV show. Talk about how he is as an ambassador for the show, and do you think the show would have had the same impact if, like one of those brothers who everyone hated in the earlier episodes. What if one of those two would have won? I mean, like, how does the winner impact the show?
Yeah, actually, I do actually think it has a big impact. I'm not gonna compare him to the Habibi brothers because they might watch this. I don't want to make them feel bad. But in terms of Jeff, he's been a phenomenal ambassador of the show. Which I mean, I feel like I hit the lottery with him winning because there's 1,000 contestants. Like anyone could have won. But in his case, he's been doing quite a few podcasts and I listened to him and like honestly he's just very how he speaks is he's very confident, he's very easy to listen to, he's very articulate in the words he uses. He's just like a cool person to listen to. So I think that he really has that going for him and he's also just a good storyteller. Like because we I was filming for 45 days straight and had so much going on. And honestly, a lot of it went by so fast, it's kind of a blur. But when I'm listening to him on podcasts and he's telling stories about his experience, it's like, even to me, it's so interesting because I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot we did that. Or I forgot we did that thing over there. And I think, and then obviously the most important part is he's using the money for a great cause, which I think, if someone won the largest cash prize in history and then was like, I'm going to go buy 5 Lamborghinis, it's their money. They can do that. But I think for a viewer, that'd be a little less satisfying than obviously someone using it for a good cause. And so I'm very grateful that he was the winner.
Well, listen, congratulations to all of you on such an incredible show. Beast Games is streaming on Prime Video, and thank you all for being here.